Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Appannaganadhaya Vaikunta Vashapattine Shuddhasindu Sudotpada Mandaraya Garutmate Shirangeshi Tindunagrunaya Sosyaditi Prekshitam Shadashri Nasammaharjam Neet Padam Bujendindiram Dantikshantadaya Dibishyabagunehi Bhandam Buddha Gresaram Srimad Rangashatari Yogi Napatim Shayo Nidhim Samshraye Srimad Sriranga Prithvishwara Hadaribuna Samamindrena Drishtam Yasthatmanam Dusumhe Narahari Hadajit Yoginetu Prasadat Pragya Srirangahari Prabhavidivade Rapta Lakshmi Nusumhastanam Seve Yatindram Sakala Gunanidhim Viragvekshatarim Shriranganada Shadagopi Yatindra Drishtam Lakshmi Nusumma Shadajit Karunika Bhatram Shrirangavira Ragurak Shadagopa Krityam Vedanta Deshiki Yatindra Maham Prabhadhye Srimatranga Shatari Sambhivara Labdhagamantadvayam Srimat Vira Rahutvahat Hadajit Padaravintashrayam Srimat Vedavadam Sadeshiki Yadehe Karunya Vikshaspadam Seve Rangadhurina Shasanavasam Narayanam Yoginam Vedanta Deshiki Yatindra Katakshalabdhat Rayanta Sara Manavadya Gunam Buddhagryam Narayanathi Yadurvikapa Abhishiktam Shriranganati Yatishekaramashrayamaha Shrimade Shri Lakshmi Smati Vipaduka Sevaka Shivan Shadagopa Shri Ranga Shadagopa Yatindra Mahadeshikaya Namaha Shrimade Shivan Shadagopa Shri Virarago Shadagopa Yatindra Mahadeshikaya Namaha Shrimade Shivan Shadagopa Shri Vedanta Deshiki Yatindra Mahadeshikaya Namaha Shrimade Shivan Shadagopa Shri Lakshmi Smati Vipaduka Sevaka Shivan Shadagopa Shri Narayana Yatindra Mahadeshikaya Namaha Shrimade Shivan Shadagopa Shri Ranganati Yatindra Mahadeshikaya Namaha Pujantam Rama Rameti Maduram Maduraksharam Arhya Kavita Shakam Vande Valmiki Kogilam Valmike Munisimhasya Kavita Vanacharinaha Shanvan Rama Katanatam Konayati Parangatim Yakpiban Charitam Rama Charitam Rudasagaram Adriptastam Vanim Vande Pracheta Samakalmasham Ghoshpati Kritava Rashim Mashaki Kritarakshasam Ramayana Mahamala Ratnam Vande Anilatmajam Anjana Nandanam Viram Janaki Shokanashanam Kapisham Akshahantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram Manojamam Marutatulya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Varishtham Vatatmajam Vanariyuta Mukhyam Sriram Dhutam Sharasa Namami Videhi Salilam Sumadrimadale Haime Mahamandape Madhye Pushpaka Vasane Manimeye Virasane Sustitam Agre Vachayati Prapanjana Sude Tattam Munibhyah Param Vyakyantam Varadadivih Parivritam Ramam Bhaje Shyamalam Namostu Ramaya Lakshmanaya Devye Jatasya Janakatmajayi Namostu Rudrendra Yamani Debhya Namostu Chandrar Kamarughanebhya Dharmatma Satyandascha Dasharatiryadi Purushe Japratidbhandvaha Sarenam Jahiravani. Okay, so let me start today's session with a bunch of questions. These questions are going to lead you into the topic that we may be covering today. So let me ask you the first question, okay? You know Ravana, right? Srimad Ramayanam is basically from the Tanyan that we just chanted for Srimad Ramayanam. You know that both the topics are going to be from Ramayanam. But let me ask you, who are the parents of Ravana? Did anybody know that? Yes, Raghav, go ahead.
I thought you said Annahal.
What is that?
Annahal, like siblings. I thought you said siblings.
No, I'm sorry. Parents of Ravana. Parents of, yes, Vijay Ravinath. Who is that? Somebody is putting their hand up. I don't know your name, Kana. Can you introduce yourself briefly?
Ginny?
Yeah, go ahead.
The parents of Ravana, I don't know who are they.
Okay, that's fine. So it's a tough question, okay? I know you guys are super smart. So I thought I really make these questions tough for you. So it's okay if you don't know, you can guess. Ravana was actually born to a Maharishi. Okay, even though Ravana was a Rakshasa, he was born to a Maharishi called Vishravas.
He's one of the only evil brahmanas usually. It's very rare to have evil brahmanas, and he's one of them.
Right, and there is a reason behind that as well.
His mother
And also,
his mother is Kaikesi.
Right, mother is Kaikesi, is actually a Rakshasi, and his father was Vishravas. Vishravas is the son of Pulastya, a great rishi called Pulastya, and they eventually, they are hereditarily connected back to Brahma. Okay, so what happens is Kaikesi is a Rakshasi, and Vishravas is a Brahmin rishi. Pura Vishravasa Putro Ravano Nama Rakshasaha. So he was a putra of Vishravas. Okay. So how did this happen? Basically, how this happened was Kubera was the actual son of Vishravas, and Kubera became a yaksha. You all know Kubera, right? Kubera is generally regarded as the lord of wealth. Actually, well, Perumal and Mahalakshmi are the eventual lords of wealth, but in the Devas category, Kubera is referred to as Vaishravana. Vaishravana is the actual name of Kubera, and Vaishravana is supposed to be the demigod of wealth. Okay, so this Vaishravana was the son of Vishravas, and then what happened is he went and joined with Brahma and became a yaksha. So Vishravas was left all alone by himself without a son. So what Kubera did was he constructed a city called Lanka, which he obviously made very rich, decked with gold and gems, and he made it very attractive, and made sure that Vishravas was staying there. And he had instituted a bunch of people for his service. Out of the people for his service was one called Kaikeshi, like the kids mentioned. And Kaikeshi served him so well and prayed to Vishravas for a child that Vishravas actually blessed her with a child. So that was Ravana. So let me go to the next question. Who are the siblings of Ravana?
Kumbhakarna and Vibhishana.
That is one more.
Kumbhakarna, Vibhishana, and Surpanaka.
Can you try Surpanaka? Surpanaka, yes. So right. So there were three people: Kumbhakarna, Ravana, Vibhishana, and Surpanaka. So these were four, correct. These were four siblings, and they were cousins, right? Between the Rakshasis, and their general father was Vishravas. Okay, so these are the four people, and he was half Brahmin and half Rakshasa because of a mother being Rakshasa and father being Brahmin. Technically born to a Brahmin father, he was also considered to be a Brahmin. While Vibhishana was definitely high on the aspects of being pious, and he considered himself a Brahmin and indulged himself in prayer to Mahavishnu and kept himself very pious. Okay, so Vibhishana is very pious, but did you think he was powerful? Like, did he wield any weapon, or did he fight, or what did he do? Like, or was he just praying and he was a saintly king? Do any of you guys know about it? Yes, Aparajita?
He would have learned the martial arts because he lived in a kingdom. But
Right.
he was mainly interested in Perumal and
Right.
would pray to Perumal. And also when all three brothers went to penance on Brahma, Kumbhakarna and Ravana had bad thoughts, but then Vibhishana had good thoughts, and he said, I want to be like a bhakta of Perumal. That's literally what
That his mind should be always fixed on Perumal, and that he should not waver from the path of righteousness ever. So that was really good answer, Aparajitan. And who were the wife and kids of Vibhishana?
Wasn't his wife Sarama?
Yes, that's right. And who were his kids? Does anybody know the name of Vibhishana's kid?
Indrajit?
No. Indrajit is Ravana's kid. Who was Vibhishana's kid? Can you try, Suparna? Trijata? Yes. Trijata was the daughter of Vibhishana, and just like her father, Trijata was also a very pious person. And while during the story, we will see more details about Trijata. But keep in mind for now, park it in the parking lot in your mind, that daughter of Vibhishana was Trijata and wife was Surama. Okay. Who were Ravana and Kumbhakarna actually? Like Ravana and Kumbhakarna are Rakshasas, but who were the incarnation of?
Jaya and Vijaya.
Very nice. Fantastic. So they were the actual incarnations of Jaya and Vijaya, who were cursed by whom?
the four sons of Brahma.
What is that?
The four
The four
sons
sons of Brahma.
Yes, who are they?
Sanat Kumaras.
Yes, Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanat Kumaras are their names, and they were cursed by the kids of Brahma that they should be born, and based off of Perumal's deal with them, that they will be born as sworn enemies of Perumal and will apparently be killed by Perumal, and they will go back to their service of Perumal as Dwarapalakas as Jaya and Vijaya. Okay, and when we say Vibhishana, the most important thing that comes to our mind is Vibhishana Sharanagati, right? Does anybody know in which kanda of Srimad Ramayana does Vibhishana Sharanagati occur? This is a tough one. If you guys crack it,
It's in Yuddha Kanda.
wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Aparajitan, you never fail to surprise me with all your answers. So very nice. It comes in Yuddha Kandam. There are actually different kinds of Sharanagatis in Srimad Ramayana, in each of the kandams. But anyhow, we'll stick to our topic. And Vibhishana Sharanagati happens in Yuddha Kandam. So by now, you obviously know who the topic of today's discussion is. I wanted to just bring in a separate context to what we are talking about. We are actually talking about Chiranjeevis, right? Chiranjeevis, that like we spoke about so far, Ashwattama, Bhali, Vyasa, Hanumamscha, Vibhishanaha, Kripah Parashuramascha, Saptehe, Chiranjeevinaha. These are the 7 Chiranjeevis we are talking about. And we will start off with Vibhishana today. If we are able to complete Vibhishana, I will go ahead and dwell on Hanuman, but let's see. Okay, so today's topic is going to be Vibhishana, and Vibhishana Sharanagati. Basically, there is also a Swami Deshikan's Grantham that deals with Vibhishana Sharanagati. This is again a tough one. I know Raghav is going to pounce on it. What is it, Raghav?
Mahavira Vaibhavam.
Yes, Mahavira Vaibhavam is the Deshikan Sri Sukti, but he also wrote a literary Grantham. Describing the Sharanagati of Vibhishana. It's a tough one again. If you guys even guessed it, even got half of it, I'll be super happy. It starts with Abhaya. Anybody try?
Abhaya Pradhanasaram.
Who was that? Who answered that?
Raghav.
Very nice. Bang. Good job, man. Good job. So, Abhaya Pradhanasaram. I know these stories are close to you, Raghav, because this deals with Veera Raghava Perumal somehow, and you should be knowing all of the details of it somehow, like the back of your hand. Am I right? Very nice, Raghav. Very nice. Abhaya Pradhanasaram is the work by Swami Desikan, particularly centered around Sharanagati, but more accurately around Vibhishana Sharanagati. Okay, Vibhishana Sharanagati is very famous for many, many reasons. And does anybody recall the shlokam that Rama mentioned during Vibhishana Sharanagati, which is actually called as Ramacharama Shlokam? Sriman, I remember once recited it on the class. I know Sriman might not be on the call today, but does anybody else know?
Is it
Sakrateva?
It's Sakradeva Prapannoye Tavasmiti Jayachate Abhayam Sarvabhutebhyo Tata Veta.
Who else knew it? I know Raghav knows it by heart. Who else knew it? Who is that? Oh,
Vardha Vishnu
Vardha Vishnu Sarvesh. Very nice. Vardha Vishnu Sarvesh. Very nice. Raman, are you on? Now I see a few more people. Hi, Raman. So your name itself is Raman, so this topic is very relevant to you. And I know you know a lot of the good answers too. I see Prakriti, Vibha and Srinath and Raman and a few other kids joined. I see a 510353 number. Is that Nambi, Swami? That's fine. That's fine. So let's get into the topic here. So Vibhishana was actually Pura Vishravasa Putro Ravana Nama Rakshasaha. So Vishravas and Kaikeshi were the parents of Vibhishana. And Vibhishana is a Brahmin Daitya combination. Okay. There is another pious person, a very saintly person that was born in a Rakshasa's lineage. and ended up becoming a very, very a great soul in our Sampradaya.
Prahaladan.
There you go. Again, Hiranyakashipu, Prahladan, and he prayed to Perumal. And hey, Narasimhan, you know the answer? Is that why you're raising your hand? Narasimha? Sir, Parala. That's fine. I know that he's participating, and that's good in itself for his age. So kudos to him for that. Anyways, Prahladan was also another Daitya king who was very pious and devoted to Mahavishnu. And obviously, every one of us know the story. As being a Hobilamadam Sishyas, he prayed to Perumal, and Hiranyakashipu tried to kill him, and he challenged him that Perumal exists anywhere and everywhere, and cracked open the big pillar, and Narasimha came out and devoured Hiranyakashipu. That story everybody knows, but there is a very close relation, like close analogical relation. He was also born to a Rakshasa, but the slight difference is he was born to a Rakshasa, but Vibhishana was actually born to a Maharishi. Okay, but both were in the descendants of Rakshasa. So that analogy we can take away to be common between them. But anyhow, Vibhishana is a very, very dharmic person, and he is the brother of Ravana. So what happens is all of his piousness and all of his good activities comes into picture only when he is trying to say the good things to Ravana. Okay, Ravana obviously is a Rakshasa, and he's an egomaniac. So he wants to be right, and he wants to establish what he has set out to do. And he does the most unfortunate thing of his whole life is to kidnap Sita Prati from Rama, and that ends up in making Rama's anger on top of Ravana. And when he does that, he comes back, and immediately Vibhishana wants him. Vibhishana wants him and says, no, what you're doing is wrong. You shouldn't be doing this. And everybody in the court of Ravana completely insults Vibhishana. Okay, so there are several instances when he tries to teach Ravana what the right thing to do is to, first of all, not to have kidnapped Sita, and even if he did, to return Sita Prati back to Rama and apologize for his mistake, which he's not ready to do. So one such instance happens when Rama has built the bridge across the Setu, across the ocean. Rama has already built the Setu, has done Setu Bandhanam, has built the bridge, and the Rama Setu is ready, and Rama is going to cross across the ocean to Lanka. Immediately, Ravana calls for the meeting of his ministers. One of the ministers is obviously Vibhishana. So Ravana calls for his ministers, and the great Kumbhakarna is also woken up. So they all come, and what happens is Ravana asks them what we could do now. Back in the day, the technology wasn't as advanced as it is now. There was no construction equipment. There was no engineering to draw the plot and get the drawings and procure the commodities to build a bridge. So it was, back in the day, just imagine several thousands and thousands of years ago, nobody could even imagine building a bridge across an ocean, right? So this was definitely the handiwork of Perumal himself, and a person that could do that would not be considered a normal person back in the day, right? So Ravana was internally shaken a little bit. So he calls upon his ministers and asks what he could do. And Kumbhakarna at that point says, well, war is definitely destined now that Rama has come with the monkey army and he's going to cross the bridge. And obviously a person that has come so far is definitely going to wage the war on behalf of Sita Prati to take her back, right? So Kumbhakarna says, why are you asking me now? Did you ask me when you kidnapped Sita? Because Kumbhakarna was also a very pious person. He was also a dharmatma by heart, right? But there is a subtle difference between Kumbhakarna and Vibhishana, right? So Kumbhakarna says, you didn't ask me when you kidnapped Sita. Now that you have consequences for what you did, now you're calling me and asking me what to do. That's not fair. And he says, because all what I am today and all what I am now is because of you, Ravana. So, and because you're my king, I will follow my duty. And even if it means me getting killed by the hands of Rama, I don't care. I will still go and fight for you on your behalf, even though I do not agree or accept what you did, that if you get a chance, you should return back Sita Prati to Rama. And then he says, and he abides by Ravana for the war. But keep in mind, he also alerts Ravana, saying that what Ravana did in terms of kidnapping Sita Prati was terribly wrong, that he should return her back. And if not, if war is the only way, then Kumbhakarna is going to fight on behalf of Ravana. Okay? Obviously, the turn comes to Vibhishana, and Vibhishana says, no, this is absolutely impossible. You should not have kidnapped Sita in the first place. If you had any enmity with Rama and Lakshmana, as a true soldier or a warrior, you should have just fought with them directly and straightened out whatever the differences were. Kidnapping Sita was a blunder in the first place, and there is still time. You could still return Sita Prati back and ask for apology, and you will just be fine. And at that point, both Indrajit and Ravana become furious at the nature of Vibhishana being so pious and being a dharmatma, and they completely insult him by saying that Vibhishana himself is a reason for destruction of the Rakshasa's lineage. Ravana particularly calls him Pamtudik Kulapam Sanam, means he calls him the edge of the axe that is going to cut down the huge tree of the Rakshasa dynasty. So that's what he says. It's like Twamtudik Kulapam Sanam. And then Vibhishana is so distraught at these guys not listening, and he makes a very rhetoric statement. He says, Sulabaha Purushaha Rajanne Satatam Priyavadinaha Apriyasya cha Patyascha Vakta Shrota cha Durlabaha. So he says, all the people, Ravana, that are surrounding you now are the people that are telling you what you want to hear. They are telling you sweet words, and they're telling you sweet lies, and they are misguiding you. That is all of the people that you have around you. But people like me that talk the bitter truth and are actually well-wishers for you are very rare to come now and forever. That's what he says. So that statement of Vibhishana even holds good today. So if you see a lot of people, when you interact in a general setting, a lot of people want to talk things that others want to hear. Right? There are not many people that will be 100% straightforward, upfront, calling a spade, which is a very rare trait even today. So Vibhishana's communication to Ravana was, you have to mend your ways, otherwise I'm not going to support you anymore. And because of the insult that Indrajit and Ravana pile upon Vibhishana, Vibhishana decides to quit Ravana's company. So here I want to ask pause for a bit and ask a question to you guys. Both Kumbhakarna and Vibhishana were pious. Okay? But Kumbhakarna decided to stay while Vibhishana decided to move on. Okay? Why did that happen? Why do you think that difference was? Where is the difference? Who is right? Vibha and Stina? Go ahead.
Well, maybe Kumbhakarna was more devoted to his brother than Vibhishana.
Right. Okay. Anybody else? Yes, Aparajitan.
I disagree with that statement. They were equally devoted, but the problem here was since Vibhishana is more pious than Kumbhakarna, so Kumbhakarna has some bad thoughts, but because he was wanting to ask, when he went to Brahma, right? He wanted to ask for immortality. He did not want to ask for for piousness. He wanted to ask for immortality, but they saved the world because Saraswati went inside the tongue and twisted it.
Do you know the slokam?
No, not exactly, but
it's called Nirdevatvam Chaya Nidram Kumbhakarno Avrinita Cha. So instead of Nirdevatvam, Ni Ir De Va. Sanskrit is very, very important for pronunciation.
If you miss one aksharam, you'll go.
The repam, right? The repam is the half Ir, that Nirdevatvam switched places, and the Ir went from before da to after da. So instead of nirdevatvam, he asked for nidravatvam. Nidra obviously means sleep. Nirdeva means no devas. Nidra means to sleep. So instead of asking for a boon for no devas, he, asked for a boon to be sleeping forever.
Eternal sleep.
Yes.
So that was one point where he got like off his kindness and compassion. So there's like small details where Kumbhakarna was pretty bad and sometime in some places. So
Sure.
that's
So,
why and
yeah,
also
that's a great point. That's a great point you made.
also Kumbhakarna he's loyal. He has a loyalty, but also Vibhishana was loyal. I think that Vibhishana is just more pious.
I understand. So somebody else also I heard say, who was that? Kindly speak up. If I might have missed, I might have called somebody else. Yeah.
Can so I think it's part of the curse Brahma's son gave, because they said that Jaya and Vijaya will always be like opposite of Perumal. So and Perumal will always kill them. So Vibhishanan wasn't Jayan or Vijayan. So he went and surrendered, but Kumbhakarnan was like Jayan or Vijayan, and so hence Ravanan and Kumbhakarnan were Jayan and Vijayan. They were opposite. So they were always opposite of Perumal. So
Wonderful. Who is this? Who is this wonderful kid? Chiraneevi, can you turn on your video? This is a wonderful answer as well.
It's Sarvesh and Vishnu.
Oh, Sarvesh and Vishnu. Okay. Okay. Chiraneevi's mic was open. That's why I thought it was Chiraneevi.
That's her mom.
Oh, okay. That's a great point too, because Jaya and Vijaya were destined to be sworn enemies of Perumal. They wanted to be killed by Perumal, and there was no other way. There was no way that Kumbhakarna was going to make peace with Rama and desert Ravana and change sides. He apparently wanted to end the pain of being in this world by fighting Rama head on and being killed by Rama, right? So that's a great point. But that's also a great point. But what I'm trying to say is Vibhishana also has the name of a traitor. Is it a good thing to desert your own brother, family, parents, and relatives at the time of acute war or acute difficult times? Is that a good thing generally? But Vibhishana did that. How would you justify that? Yeah, who is that? Hold your thought, Aparajita. I wanted somebody else said, Saumi.
Yeah, it isn't, and it is because technically he's doing it for a good thing because Ravana was a bad guy, but at the same time it isn't because he was loyal to Ravana and it was his actual family.
Yeah, but how would you justify it? Like, what is the compromise Vibhishana did in his mind before he took that decision? Because he obviously knew he was going directly against his brother's wishes, and going towards Rama meant Ravana, his family, his brothers, and everybody were going to be killed. Period. How did he come to terms with that, you think? Aparajita, go ahead.
I think also because of the insults that they piled up before the last exact confront with Ravana. That would have impacted his thoughts.
Sure. Raghav, did you put your hands up? Oh, okay. So obviously it was a combination of a number of things. Ravana and Kumbhakarna were destined to be sworn enemies of Perumal. They wanted to get killed by Perumal, and that's the story behind it. The secondary thought was Vibhishana also had a blessing or a boon from Brahma that his mind is always rested upon dharmic activities and righteousness on Mahavishnu, and it would totally be different of him or totally be unbecoming of him to have supported Ravana and gone to fight with Rama. And the third probable thing is, you might have heard, of something called a Samanya Dharma and Visesha Dharma, right? Obviously, on a Samanya Dharma scale, if your parents or family members or brothers or sisters are in trouble, you should step in and help them and never desert them in times of trouble or in testing times. But this is not the time for Samanya Dharma, right? This was Visesha Dharma, where Vibhishana realized that Rama is none other than Mahavishnu himself. And what his brother did was absolutely blunder, and there is no way that could be justified. And the biggest thing that he might have thought to himself, this is based on Ramayana himself, is that him supporting Ravana by staying on his side is actually encouraging Ravana to continue to do what he did, which he did not stand for. That is the biggest stoppage, I believe, that was in his mind, is that he didn't want to be a party for this nonsense. He didn't want to be a party to a people that kidnapped Sita Prati from Rama. And him not being in support of those activities should be clearly communicated to him by not staying by his side. Okay, so it's a culmination of a multiple number of things. It's a culmination of a few boons, culmination of insults from Indrajit and Ravana, and it is also the resolve of Vibhishana to clearly communicate to Ravana that he was not with him. I'm not with anybody that does adharmic activities or kidnaps, and that too of Sita Prati herself. That he knew that Rama was Mahavishnu and Sita Prati was Tayar. That's the reason why he decided, in spite of being called a traitor, or in spite of deserting his own motherland and his king and his family and relatives, he chose to go and perform Sharanagati to Lord Rama. Okay, so this is probably one of the most famous. This is probably one of the most famous segments of Ramayana in terms of Sharanagati. This is called as Vibhishana Sharanagati, also as Abhaya Pradhana Saram by Swami Deshikam. So Valmiki describes Vibhishana as Antariksha Gata Sriman. That is how Valmiki describes Vibhishana, who left back all his riches, who left back his family, who left back his kids, who left back everything, right? And just rose to the sky and to go to Rama and perform surrender. So see, there was a big risk. Like if he didn't do this right, like if he got caught by the monkeys before he went to Rama, it was sure death. They were going to stone him to death, or they were going to kill him, because they might have already thought, for a few reasons, that it is a Rakshasa that is coming to attack them. Or they might have thought that it is a ploy by Ravana to distract the monkeys or the Rama's army. But he's not even met Rama once. All he has done is heard about Rama and the benevolence of Rama through Sita and through Hanuman. Right? So there was also another situation where Vibhishana displays his truthfulness is when Hanuman comes over as a messenger for Rama, carrying the message of Rama is that you still have time, Rama. Who's that? Does anybody want to say anything? That's fine. So when Hanuman brings the message from Rama to Ravana that there is still time, Ravana, if you still choose to retract on your stance and return Sita Prati back, you can still prevent large-scale destruction, and you could still prevent getting yourself killed if you just turn in Sita. And you don't even have to apologize, just become Rama's friend. But all you have to do is turn in Sita Prati, and that's it. This war will be called off and everything will be fine. We can go our own merry ways. And at that point, Ravana again becomes extremely furious. And he goes to the certain extent that he wants to punish the messenger that had the audacity and this boldness to show up at Ravana's kingdom or the ministry and talk straight to Ravana in such a way, right? So can anybody describe the background of that activity that Hanuman did? Hanuman, in which kandam it appears, and what the background was for Ravana showing up at Hanuman showing up at Ravana's palace? Yes, Aparajitan.
One time, so it took place in Sundarakandam,
Mm-hmm.
and it took place in Sundarakandam, and what happened was, so when he started wreaking havoc in Ashokavanam, and then also when he came in, so he took, since Ravana didn't offer him a seat. He made his own seat by extending his own tail. And it went in circles, and at the end he was higher than Ravana himself. And then also they tried to.
Small correction I want to make, Anna. Where did you read this story of Hanuman sitting over his tail and Ravana higher than Ravana? You might have seen it in a TV serial, I believe, right?
Books and movies.
Yeah, right. So a small correction. I just, don't get me wrong. I just want to get the details straight. Actually, Hanuman did not do that. Hanuman was the most pious and the most brilliant messenger, pious and the most brilliant-minded, intellectual, soft-spoken messenger. So what happens is when Hanuman comes to the palace of Ravana and stands in front of him, he already was tied by the Brahmastram of Indrajit. Brahmastram does not have any effect on Hanuman, but Hanuman pretended to be tied by Indrajit's Brahmastram just in order to exploit the opportunity or make a ruse to show up in Ravana's palace just so he can see him and pass the message from Rama is that, dude, your time is up. You better return Sita or that's it. You're going to be dead. So Hanuman wanted to get the message straight across. So he pretended to be tied by Brahmastram. And anyways, these stupid, the mindless, I'm sorry for using the word, but these mindless Rakshasas tied ropes around Hanuman to secure him, right? But the moment they tied ropes on top of Brahmastram almost got insulted in the sense that the Rakshasas did not believe in the power of Brahmastram, and Brahmastram already gave away because they used ropes to tie him on top of Brahmastram. Brahmastram is sufficient to tie anybody, and particularly Hanuman has a boon not to be restrained by Brahmastram. And on top of it, when these Rakshasas tied ropes around Hanuman to constrain him, Brahmastram was already gone, like twice, right? So Hanuman was free to do whatever he wanted to do, but he did not. He just pretended to be under the influence of Brahmastram, and he walked over into the palace of Ravana, and he stands in front of Ravana and boldly, clearly explains to Ravana that you are king right now because of the good deeds of Vishravas. You are king now because of the good deeds of Pulastya, right? Because of all the papa karma that you are doing, you are going to be paying for it in the future if you don't return Sita, Prati, right? Ravana says, like, I'm king now. If I did what I did was wrong, why am I not suffering? And Hanuman says, you are king and you are enjoying all of these benefits of being king because of your past deeds. He prayed to Lord Shiva and got the celestial knife, celestial sword known as Chandrahas. And he was a very ardent devotee of Shiva, right? So because of all of those Shiva Radhanams and because of the good deeds of his father and grandfather is the reason why he was what he was. But if he was supposed to enjoy reap the effects of all of his papa karma, then he would be suffering is what Hanuman wants, and tells him in no uncertain terms that what he is doing is wrong and his end is near if he does not choose to return Sita Prati back. And at that moment, internally Ravana is shaken a little bit, right? He once visited Shivalokam and he made fun of Nandi, and Nandi cursed him to say a different looking face than a human face. I don't want to say a monkey face or an ugly face, but a different looking face than a human face will show up in his kingdom, and that will mark the end of his beginning of his end. So Ravana is reminded of that curse of Nandi. And when Hanuman is standing right there, shining brilliantly and making a bold statement in front of Ravana, it's like he's not bothered, like he's surrounded by all of these mighty Rakshasas full of weapons and fierceness and no sympathy in their heart, that saying such a thing could mean death for Hanuman. In spite of it, that is the bravery and valor of Hanuman, that he doesn't choose to think about all that. And he clearly says in no uncertain terms that this is it. And Ravana looks up to the sky at Shivalokam. thinking, is this the curse of Nandi that's manifesting as Hanuman to tell me that my end is starting to begin? And that look to the sky is interpreted by the stories and the movies as that look to the sky is actually a glance on Hanuman. And Hanuman ended up sitting on his tail higher than Ravana in order to insult Ravana. That was not the intention of Hanuman. Hanuman's intention was not to insult Ravana, but was to tell the righteous things in his mind for one last time. Because the yuddham that Rama was performing and Ravana was 100% dharma yuddham, right? So when Rama performs dharma yuddham, all of the infantry, cavalry, and horsemen and the elephants men, all of them have to be killed one by one. Whole of Ravana's army has to be devoured, and then the fight has to occur between the ministers and the sons of Ravana and the families of Ravana, and all of them have to be killed. And then finally Rama and Ravana can meet each other. Those were the rules of war, and obviously Rama wanted to prevent that happening by any means. So he kept giving Ravana more and more chances. And one such chance was to send Hanuman and give the message to Ravana that, returning back Sita will still save thousands and thousands of lives of his own countrymen, of Ravana's own countrymen. So that glance that Ravana flew upon Hanuman was the remembrance of the curse from Nandi, not particularly Hanuman sitting on the tail of himself, higher than Ravana, to prove that he was any higher or superior like that. I hope you don't take it in mind in a different sense, Aparajitan. I know you are a brilliant child, but I just wanted to get the details straight. Did you get it, Kana?
Yeah.
Okay, so continue with your answer though. You were trying to say something. I interjected with this correction.
So also they tried to once Ravana heard that, after he took a glance in the sky, he ordered to kill Hanuman, but Vibhishana stepped in and saying that you're not allowed to kill a messenger. It's part of dharma. So instead he said maybe do a punishment, even though Vibhishana never wanted that to happen. He just wanted to make Ravana's papam, that one papam less in like how bad what's gonna happen.
What was the punishment?
To set fire on Hanuman's tail.
Wonderful. And what did Hanuman do because of that?
So in the movies, I don't know if this is true also, but he extended his tail. And also when Sita Pirati heard that Hanuman was set on fire, she prayed to Agni that nothing will hurt Hanuman.
Right. Wonderful. No, you're right. So Hanuman's tail was lit on fire. Hanuman jumped from Ravana's palace, and he shouted the glorious name of Rama, Jai Shri Ram, and he said, yes, let victory be to Hanuman, let victory be to Rama. And he jumps from there and he takes the opportunity to put fire around the houses on Lanka. And finally, after putting fire on Lanka, that's when Hanuman also realizes that he might have hurriedly done that, because he believes that Sita Pirati is also in Lanka and this fire should not hurt her. And he makes a prayer to Perumal to say this fire should not hurt the Pativrata Devam or Sita Pirati, the goddess, the lady that is waiting for Rama with her heart full of Rama. And Hanuman is completely moved by the devotion of Sita Pirati towards Rama. The moment when he was flying into Lanka, he was thinking a little bit less of Rama, because he was thinking like back in the day, soldiers were supposed to be war hardened because they indulge in a lot of killing in the war, see a lot of blood, and they don't have much of mercy or love or sympathy in their minds. So thinking of Rama as one such brave, brilliant warrior, Hanuman was thinking like, why is this Rama so attached to a single lady called Sita? I mean, what's so big about the Sita Pirati? I don't know. It's like that was his mentality before he saw Sita Pirati, right? But once he saw Sita Pirati and her devotion with which she was thinking of Rama, and the way in which she was, absolute, how do I tell you, hope in front of nothing. She was hidden in the forest by the most powerful Rakshasis and Rakshasas, and there was no way, nobody was ever going to find her on a normal day. But she still had the hope that Rama would come. And all she had done was recite the name of Rama. And looking at Sita Prati, the benevolence of that goddess literally moved Hanuman to say that, I thought Rama was being too attached or affectionate to a single woman, but now I think Rama is actually a stone-hearted person. How could he ever leave a person like Sita alone for so long? I know he's taking all the steps possible to come to her and defeat Ravana and take her back, but Hanuman literally saw the extent of, grace and the I don't know how to express it in English, but the greatness of Tayar or Sita Prati, and he was so moved. So that same respect for Tayar, the mother goddess, that made him feel that this fire should not end up hurting Sita Mata or Sita Prati, and he prays to Lord Agni to not hurt Sita. And the same way, Tayar, who is the ocean of sympathy for her devotees, and also was extremely benevolent towards Hanuman for having brought the Angulyam or the ring from Rama, she also prays to Agni Bhagavan not to hurt Hanuman's tail. So she says, Shito Bhava Hanumata. So let his tail not feel the heat from the fire, and let his tail be cold and not hurt his fire, is what Tayar Prati prays for Hanuman. And apparently Hanuman dips his tail, like Suparna just mentioned. He dips his tail in the ocean and extinguishes the fire, and he jumps off back to the seashore where Rama and Lakshmana and other monkeys are waiting. So what are the other contributions of Vibhishana in this war? So what I'm getting to is Vibhishana, why was he made into a Chiranjeevi? What were his contributions that actually contributed him to being a Chiranjeevi? So one, obviously, Vibhishana saved Hanuman, because those Rakshasas, they never thought about anything. The other thing to think is Hanuman would have not been killed anyways, because he would have, somehow escaped or caused enough damage or killed even Ravana. He wouldn't have killed Ravana because he was waiting for Rama to do it, but he would have definitely found a way to jump out even if the Rakshasas decided. But the goodness of Vibhishana comes to the fore by advising Ravana not to kill a messenger and just to punish him or to sever one of the appendages instead of taking his life. That was one. And obviously Vibhishana Sharanagati. Vibhishana comes over, Antariksha Gata Shriman, he gets the glaze of Sita Prati in the sky, in spite of giving away everything he had. The shlokam that Valmiki recites at that particular point from Vibhishana's side is Pariktektva Maya Lanka, Pitrani cha Dhanani cha, Bhagavad Gatam Hime Rajyam, cha Jeevitam cha Sukhani cha. So he left his life, all of his life earnings, all of his happiness, all of his friends, all of the money, and all of his family. So he left everything and rose up to the sky for what? Surrendering to Rama. And at this point, it's actually an irony that Valmiki refers to him as Shriman. Shriman means a person that is filled with the blessings of Mahalakshmi, that the person that is rich, or a person that is, complete in all the perspectives. But at this point, Vibhishana just gave up all of that. But still, Valmiki refers to him as Shriman because of one thing, is that when he rose to the sky, he got the benevolence glance of Sita from Ashokavanam. That's one. Second one is because he got the glance of Mahalakshmi or Sita Prati herself, he became the real Shriman. He had the riches, he had the gems, jewels, family, houses, and everything, but those were not the real riches. The real rich was his Atmajnanam that he received, that he belonged to Rama and that he did not belong to Ravana, and that he got the recommendation from Sita Prati through her glance, and that made him the Shriman when he rose to the sky. And he had a few other Rakshasa friends that also thought the same way, that were dependent on Vibhishana. They all moved over the sky and they showed up in front of Rama, and just by glance, Rama is able to gauge that Vibhishana has come to perform Sharanagati, and Vibhishana with his demeanor and with his other Rakshasa friends performs Sharanagati right from the sky. And Rama, right when the moment Vibhishana performs Sharanagati, has absolutely given his the promise of protection to Vibhishana. But nobody notices that, and Rama, being the true king that he is, calls all his ministers like Sugriva, Hanuman, Jambavan, and Angada, and Nala, and all of the monkeys, and he asks them, like, look, there is a Rakshasa standing there in the sky, and he has a few people with him. Now, should we accept him or not? That's what Lord Rama asks. And Sugriva jumps in to say, like, no. This guy is a traitor. He just deserted his brother right when we were going to take a war on him. So based on the character of this person, we cannot trust him. So don't take him, is what Sugriva says. And Jambavan says, and a few others also join together and says, you know what, he could be a spy and he's got some weapons on him, so he might hurt you. Even though he might try to be behaving like a pious person, you probably cannot believe him, because in the night he might just creep up to your tent and drop a big stone on your head and kill you, or maybe he might poison you, or he could cause some harm to you. Is generally what we think is what Jambavan says. And then Rama asks Hanuman, like, what do you think, Hanuman? You've been there, you've seen him in person, bone and flesh. What do you think of him? And then Hanuman says, Vibhishanostu dharmatma, natu rakshasa cheshtitaha. So Vibhishana is a dharmatma, and he is not troubled by the asuric behaviors or the negative behaviors or bad thoughts of Rakshasas. So Hanuman actually recommends giving protection to Vibhishana. Okay, and then Rama then doubles down on the same topic and says, Mitra bhavena sampraptam natyajayam katanchana dosho yadhyapi tasya syate satam yetad agarhitam. Means he says, even if somebody approaches me with the idea of being a friend, he doesn't really have to be a friend. He can approach me with the idea of being a friend. Mitra bhavena sampraptam. Okay, natyajayam katanchana. That person is not supposed to be deserted. Dosho yadhyapi tasya syat. Whatever the deficiencies or limitations that he might have, we have to ignore and accept his extended arms of friendship or surrender and take him into our realms, is what Rama says. Vijay Ravinath, I think you are lifting your hand. Do you want to say something, Kana? Or were you just stretching? Okay, that's fine. I thought you were just stretching. That's okay. So that's what Rama says. And then Sugriva again interjects to say, no, we understand all of that. But Rama, if you are gone, then this whole war is completely gone. So we just want to protect you, and we want to make sure that you are safe. And accepting a person from the opposite side is not a good idea. And that point is when Rama literally almost gets irritated and chides Sugriva and says, Pishachan dhanavan yakshan pridivyan chaiva rakshasana angulyagrena tam hanyam ichanne haryaneshwara. Means be it Pishachas, be it Dhanavas, or be it Yakshas, or be it Rakshasas, or be it anything. Okay, I have the capability to just tear them with the tip of my nails. I don't even need no weapons. I don't even nothing. Okay, Vibha and Srinath, thank you for attending. Hope to talk to you again in a few weeks. Okay, bye. Thanks for joining. I appreciate that you dropped that message before you left. Thank you. Bye. Okay, so getting back to the story, Rama says, Pishachan Dhanavan Yakshan, Pradivyan Chaiva Rakshasan, Angulyagrena Tam Hanyam. So I can just tear them with my bare nails. Okay, stop bothering about me and tell if we have to accept Vibhishana or not. And obviously, Rama has already done his Abhaya Pradhanam. Sakrideva Prapannaya Tavasmi Chayachate Abhayam Sarvabhutebhyo Dadami Yetat Vratam Mama. So that's what Rama says. And he brings Vibhishana into his fold. And obviously, Rama was not wrong. Vibhishana proved to be a very, very, very valuable ally. Okay. So can anybody say what more was the contribution of Vibhishana towards the war after he was included in Rama's fold? Anybody?
He gave details about Ravana's
Ravana's army and like the structure.
Okay, wonderful. Swami, was it you?
Yeah, I was just saying he gave the details about Ravana's
Okay.
kingdom.
Any more particular occurrences where that he helped Rama? He obviously gave away all the secrets. He gave the size of the army. He gave the size of the weaponry. Every Rakshasa, that demons, the demon or the monster, as destructive as they were, when they showed up, Vibhishana would give details about what their weaknesses were and how to encounter them. Obviously, but is there any more particular situations where you think Vibhishana helped? So what happens is, one of the instances is Indrajit, right? Indrajit is a very, very powerful and miraculously gifted magician, sorcerer, warrior. Okay, it is very, very difficult except for Perumal. Even Indra himself was defeated by Indrajit. That's why he got his name as Indrajit, right? So Indrajit, when he was fighting Rama, he puts Brahmastram once, and obviously everybody of us know about the Sanjeeva Karani story where Hanuman goes and brings the Sanjeevani Parvatam, and he also ties both Rama and Lakshmana with Nagastram, and obviously Garutman comes over and gives both of them a hug and gets them out of the Nagapasham. So you've heard these stories. So Indrajit is almost convinced that these two people are not just mere human beings or just brothers with an army of monkey, but they are extremely true and something else. He almost gets the knack of it that they are not going to be able to win. Okay, so he decides that there is a boon given to them, a boon given to Indrajit by Brahma. Right? When I said that Indrajit defeated Indra and he had him captive in the Asura Lokam, Brahma comes over to pick up Indra back because the Devas had no king, and in turn for relieving Indra, Brahma gave a boon to Indrajit, that there is a particular place called Nikumbila, which was the hereditary deity of the Rishi Pulastya and Vishravas and Ravana, obviously for Indrajit. If he performed the secret yajnam of Nikumbila on the day before any war, it is impossible for anybody to defeat him. So obviously, Indrajit was a master sorcerer. So what he decided to do was, he could have just gone straight away and did the Nikumbila. But you know what he did? He had two other layers of strategy lined up on top of it. So he made a Maya Sita, right? He made an illusionary Sita that looked like that was exactly Sita's form. And he took Maya Sita in front of Rama. For everybody else other than Vibhishana and Indrajit, that Maya Sita was actually Sita. Only Indrajit and Vibhishana knew that it was Maya Sita. So Indrajit takes Sita Prati in front, the Maya Sita in front of Rama and Lakshmana. And guess what? He does the most heinous things in front of Rama, that he takes out the sword and chops off her head right in front of Rama and Lakshmana. Just imagine, Rama and Lakshmana do not know that this is a Maya Sita, right? So they are completely stunned. They are completely devastated and they fall down almost unconscious. Just imagine Sita being killed right in the front of Rama and Lakshmana, right? They're completely distraughted. And Vibhishana goes one more step. Indrajit goes one more step and says, "Hey, Rama and Lakshmana, just see what I did to Sita. I just chopped off her head. Now she's dead. Guess what more I'm going to do? I'm not going to stop here. I'm going to go all the way to Ayodhya. I'm going to go north, all the way to Ayodhya, and make sure both Bharata and Shatrughna are dead as well. I'm not going to leave you guys, and I'm going to completely devour the Surya Vamsham. And I'm not going to stop right now," is what they say. And Rama and Lakshmana are completely aghast. It's like, look at this treachery of this person, that when he's engaging in a one-to-one warfare, he brings a female in between, and that to Sita Prati, and chops her head off, and he doesn't want to stop. So immediately Rama and Lakshmana get their army together, and they want to chase Indrajit so they don't cause any hurt to Bharata and Shatrughna. And then Vibhishana interferes at that point and says, "Rama and Lakshmana, stop. This is Maya Sita. This is not real Sita." Okay, so the plan for Indrajit right now is, this is a ruse, and he is distracting you guys to go all the way to Ayodhya, Now that in your mind, you think that Sita is dead and you could at least protect Bharata and Shatrughna, so he's leading you into a path of going to Ayodhya. In the meanwhile, he will not go to Ayodhya. He will turn around and go to the cave of Nikumbila and perform the yajnam and become invincible, and he'll come back to kill you both. That's the strategy that Indrajit is performing. And now don't get distracted or don't be distraught that Sita Prati is dead. She is not dead, because that is the only hold that Ravana had, and he wanted to attain her at all means, and he would definitely not kill her. So this is definitely Maya Sita. So now what you have to do is forget about Bharata and Shatrughna. He's not going there. Indrajit is going to perform Nikumbila. So make sure you go and stop him from performing Nikumbila, is one of the major advices that Vibhishana hands over to Rama. And obviously Hanuman and Lakshmana reach the location of Nikumbila and destroy the location of where Indrajit was going to perform the Nikumbila Yajnam, and Indrajit is eventually not able to perform it. And he does a lot of black magic and sorcery. And there is a blackberry tree under which he sits and meditates, strewn with human bodies and a lot of black magic. And whenever he gets under that tree, he gets immense divine energy or negative energy. And Indrajit also wants Rama and Lakshmana not to, and also he does the reverse of the black magic, and he also helps with removing the black magic away, so Rama and Lakshmana and the warriors can continue fighting. Okay, and there is one last huge help that that Vibhishana made. Do you know what that is? Anybody? When there is Rama Ravana Yuddham going on, right? Rama keeps chopping off. Yes, Aparajit, go ahead.
His nectar is in his navel.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So he keeps chopping off Ravana's head over and over again. It keeps coming back. And you all know about the Aditya Hridayam, where Agastya comes over and says, this is the time, this is the right muhurtam that you have to take all of your charge and make sure Ravana is wiped out. Otherwise, after this muhurtam, it will be very difficult to kill Ravana, is what Agastya comes and says, and also preaches the Aditya Hridayam to Lord Rama. And Indrajit says the source of his immortality, or the source of him being undefeated or getting all of those heads, is not in the head or in the neck, it's in his navel. That's where the big rush of Amritam occurs from. And that's what you have to dry out before you take care of Indrajit. Because you take care of Ravana. Now, obviously, Rama realizes that, takes out the big Brahmastram and shoots it right at his navel, and Ravana is dead right at that point. After that, as Rama promised, Rama makes Vibhishana the king of Lanka, and all of them climb on the Pushpaka Vimanam, and they come back for the coronation of Rama, or Pattabhishekam of Rama and Sita Prati in Ayodhya. And once Rama is coronated as a king, Sita Prati and Rama are so happy, are so happy for all these contributions that Vibhishana did, the best of which is the demonstration of Sharanagati that Vibhishana did for all of us to learn from, right? For all of us to learn from, that even a Rakshasa from the opponent's enemy's side, when he went and approached Rama and he made a sincere surrender, Rama accepted it and protected it. And not only did he save him from death, he also made him the king of Lanka. And they were so pleased with Vibhishana that they blessed him with immortality to live and rule with Dharma. And guess what? They also gave him another gift. What was it?
Ranganatha Perumal.
Right.
Ranganatha Perumal.
Right. Dattva Kuladanam Raja, meaning the Kuladanam of Rama that came all the way from Brahma to the Surya Vansham, that Rama was performing Tiruvaradhanam to. So the Ranganatha Perumal was himself handed over to Vibhishana to be performing lifelong Tiruvaradhanam to him. But while he was going back with Lord Ranganatha, he placed it on the banks of Kaveri in order to perform Sandhya Vandanam, because he was a pious Brahmin. And when he came back from Sandhya Vandanam and tried to lift the Vimanam, Sriranga Vimanam, that Vimanam was not be able, that Vimanam got fixated to the ground, and Vibhishana was not able to move it. And that he took as the divine direction from Perumal to not disturb him, and left Lord Sri Ranganatha Perumal at the banks of Kaveri. And that's where we have the Sriranga Vimanam today and Ranganatha Perumal today. And even if you go to the temple, there is a Sannadhi for Vibhishana inside of the temple. Okay, so that's how Vibhishana was blessed with immortality. Right? He was not cursed with immortality, he was blessed with immortality. Do you guys have any more questions, Kana? It was equally a pleasure for myself to narrating the story and to take answers from you guys. Any questions? Okay, so I guess it's already 10 minutes over. I'm 10 minutes over. I'm not going to be able to cover Hanuman's story. I'll come back. Yes, anybody?
I just have a connection. So in Ramayana, like Valmiki Maharishi, he calls like different people Sriman at different times. Because after they complete like different feats or they do certain things, he calls them Sriman. But for Swami,
Is this Hiranmayi?
Yeah.
Okay, welcome back. Go ahead.
And then for Swami Desikan, in his Taniyan, the Sriman is there, so he's always Sriman and not just one time after he does something, because he always has the all the gunams and wealth, like a good acharya.
Sure. And Lakshmana is also referred to as Sriman because Lakshmana, Lakshmi Sampannaha is one of the names that refers by Valmiki. You're right. There are a lot of, we can probably continue this on to the next conversation where I talk about Hanuman. I'll definitely address this. There are a lot of locations or a lot of Bhagavatas that are actually referred to as Sriman. And yes, very well taken. Very nice point here in me. Good connection. Any more?
Also, for you said that no, it's for when Vibhishana came to in the sky to like do Sharanagati to Rama, and then Sugriva was like, "Oh, we shouldn't take Vibhishana." Rama said that he could like tear apart anyone who came, and so it reminded me of Gantakarnan, who was like Pisasa, and he came, but he did Sharanagati, and Perumal, accepted.
Krishna.
Yeah, Krishna, in Krishna.
Right. Yeah, good one. Good one. Anything else?
Also, when you said tearing, it reminded me of Narasimha.
Yes, obviously, that's right. So that's a very good, interesting point. Perumal actually, Narasimha Avataram occurs before Rama Avataram. So there is a reference. See, Rama does not try to disclose himself as Perumal at all. Right? The whole crux of Ramayana is that Rama tries to live like a normal human being, which is very different from what Lord Krishna was, that at each and every single step, Krishna tried to demonstrate that he was Perumal through killing of the Rakshasas or doing, impossible deeds or giving Bhagavad Gita or stuff like that at every single step. Lord Krishna tried to communicate that I am Perumal, you have to do Sharanagati to me, this is what it is. And he tried to be very, 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 very open about it. But on the contrary, Rama never, ever, ever tried to disclose that he was Perumal. Right? He always tried to do everything like a normal human being. And he also says, Mamayeva dushkritam chaiva, meaning this is all because of my wrong or bad deeds in the past that I am suffering without Sita Prati and all of that stuff. That he even says, or he pretends very, very accurately to be like a normal human being. But there are two instances when he actually overcomes or is taken over by the situation where he discloses that he is Perumal, that he is Narasimha Avataram. One is exactly like you said, Angulyagrena tam hanyan itchan hariganeshwara. If I wanted, I could just tear these Rakshasas by the nails, which is exactly what he did, like Aparajitan pointed out. Okay, he tore the tummy of Hiranyakashipu with his nails, bare nails, right? So Vajranakam. Okay, so even in Narasimha Gayatri, you know that the Vajranakam, the word Vajranakam shows up, and it is also said that Sudarshana Alwan incarnated as the nails of Narasimha while he tore the tummy off, or while he tore and threw away Hiranyakashipu. So the point I'm trying to make is that is one of the instances when Perumal gets overcome by emotion and slightly tries to say that if I wanted, I could do this, but I'm not. Don't worry about my safety, okay? You don't have to protect me and in turn reject Vibhishana as one situation. And there is a second situation. Does anybody, this is really tough, okay? This is really, really tough. If you guys knew it, I will perform Sartanga Namaskaram to you. Okay, so it's one more location where Perumal actually is afraid that he might have disclosed that he's Perumal. Yes?
Is it when that Garuda comes? And
Close, but not really. One more.
It's when Jatayu comes.
Good try, good try. That's a great
Jatayu,
try.
like, I think it's when
Close.
Kakasura.
Close.
I think it's when
Close.
Kakasura.
One more. Close. One more. Thank you, Vijay Ravina. Thanks for letting me know you have to leave. Thank you. Bye. See you next week. So the location is when Ravana is finally killed by Rama, right? Mandodari is one of the Panchakanyas, right? Mandodari is a big Pativrata, is one of the Panchakanyas, and Rama is super upset that he's going to have to get a curse from Mandodari because he just killed her husband, right? So when Mandodari is wailing on the top of the dead body of Ravana, Rama shows up there to coronate Vibhishana, takes Vibhishana and asks Vibhishana to perform the final rites for the body of Ravana because he's the brother, right? So he's performing the final rites of Ravana, and he's so scared because Rama is the most pious person and Mandodari is the most pious Pativrata, okay? And he's afraid of the curse of the Pativrata that he is afraid that he might incur. And so he's literally shaking while going in front of Mandodari, that he's almost sure that he's going to be cursed and he's just, on the edge. The moment Mandodari sees Rama, she bursts out into a shlokam praising Rama. Tamasah paramodhata shankachakra gadadharha is what she says. She says, this person that's standing in front of you guys that killed Ravana is not just a human being. If he pretends to be a human being, you guys are wrong. He's not just a human being, and his brother is not just a human brother. And all these monkeys that came over and killed Ravana are not just regular people, because Ravana is not a normal person or a normal warrior. He was a blessed Shiva Bhakta with many celestial weapons and chandrahas and whatnot. So this person that's standing in front of you is none other than Shankachakra Gadadharan, who is Mahavishnu himself. And Rama is suddenly stuck, scared. It's like, how did she realize that how I was Paramatma or I was Perumal? And he starts searching for his waist and his hands to see if the Shankha Chakram is poking around and showing clues to Mandodari that this is Perumal. But Mandodari, like I said, is a good Pativrata. So by the power of her penance, she's able to recognize that that a person that is so valorous and that is able to perform a fight that is bereft of any adharma, and a person that is living for dharma, and a person that survived several attacks from Indrajit, and a person that survived all of the magic tactics, sorcery, all of the adharma yuddham completely that is waged by the terrible Rakshasas, and was still able to hold on to the truth. There was not a single time when Rama went over the truth in order to kill Ravana. Okay, he even excused Ravana the day before he was killed, say, go away. Okay, let me see, at least you change your mind now. And then finally, when none of that worked, he still stuck to his truth and killed Ravana just for Sita Prati. Right? Obviously, killing for the Rakshasas and Ravanas was for saving the other rishis that had prayed to him in Sri Vaikuntham to free them from the menace of the Rakshasas. But how he played it out is for saving Sita Prati. Right? He waged the Dharma Yuddha and he killed Ravana. And obviously, Mandodari says, this man that's standing in front of you right here is none other than the Shankachakra Gadadharan, who is none other than Mahavishnu himself. So don't be confused that these are human beings. And she starts praising Rama as Perumal. Yes, Salmi, go ahead.
Movies and books say Hanuman was an incarnation of Shiva. Is that true?
So it's generally called a Rudravataram, not necessarily Shiva, but it's a Rudravataram. It's like an aggressive form of existence that he shows during the fight and also when he helps Rama. So you should always stick to Valmiki Ramayana, which is the biggest moolam or the repository of pramanams for us. Obviously, the stories in the TV and in the comics are a good source of giving you a high-level picture, but I would definitely not encourage you to take it 100%. You have to take it with a pinch of salt. Like Aparajitan mentioned earlier, I have heard a number of people say this, that Hanuman was sitting on top of the tail. That's why I thought, as a person as genuine as Aparajitan, I should let him know that there is a pramanam and you should refer to Srimad Ramayana when you look at it. So stuff like that, Swami, I'd probably take it with a pinch of salt. Don't go 100%, but you can still use it for high level understanding. That's okay.
Okay, because people say it's like, since Hanuman is like a big devotee of Rama, at the same time Shiva was a big devotee of Vishnu, and Shiva also just repeated Rama's name every time. Right. And you also know who Shiva was a big devotee of. You know the Mantra Rajapada Stotram from Ahirbudnya Samhita? It says, Shankarena Adarat Proktam Padanam Tattva Nirnayam. So Shankara recited the Mantra Rajapada Stotram on Lord Lakshmi Narasimha directly. You don't even have to go the roundabout way of saying, he is the avataram of this, so he did this, so he did this, so A equal to B equal to C, so A equal to C. You don't have to go even that far. Shankara directly praised Lakshmi Narasimha in Mantra Rajapada Stotram of Ahirbudnya Samhita. Like it starts, Vrittotpulla Vishalaksham, right? The word before even goes like Ishvara Vacha. Vrittotpulla Vishalaksham. Ishvara is obviously Shiva. And the last slokam, Shiva himself says, Shankarena Adarat Proktam Padanam Tattva Nirnayam Trisandhyam Yahpate Tasya Shri Vidyayushya Vartate. So there is a direct reference for you that Shiva prayed to Lord Lakshmi Narasimha. Okay? I know Aparajitan lifted his hand. Yes, go ahead.
One like in Tirukkodu Penpillai Rahasyam, like Mukundan Devarajan Swami, he said he was talking about women in the Tirukkodu Penpillai Rahasyam, and there's a line that says Avan Devan Yendreno Mandodari Pone.
Yeah, that was one.
Yes, very good connection. That's right. That's right.
Also, when you were saying about the what is it? About Shivan and Perumal, yeah, Swami Desikan, he was the avataram of the Tiruvenkadamudayan, and so he wrote Yadavabhidam in the commentary for Yadavabhidam, I think was Appayadikshitan. And he was also he was the incarnation of Shiva, and one
long shot, yeah,
that I could make.
Sure, absolutely, great correlations, and we are actually 23 minutes over. The session is only available for an hour and a half. With just, I see a lot of kids also might have other classes, so they are dropping off. I just saw Arun. Arun Kumar, he just wrote a note that he has another conflict. So with due respect to everybody's time, we'll wrap up today's class. And obviously, I'm all ears to interact with you guys. And I'm so glad this is a two-way conversation. I try to let you guys talk more than I do. So in the next session where I talk about Hanuman, which is also going to be from Srimad Ramayana, we'll continue this conversation. And I would encourage everybody to come up with more correlations and connections where we can make this very lively and have a mutually educational experience. I learned a lot from you guys also, obviously, that Tirukkodu Penpillai thing, that was a great correlation that you guys put up, and a lot of other things that Saumi asked as well. So, it's mutually very enriching, and I thank you guys for the great session. We'll again meet for Hanuman in a short period of time when my turn comes around. So we'll chant Acharya Dinin and wrap up for today if there are no more questions, okay? All right. Shri Range Chaitinduna Karaniya Susadi Prekhatam Kalasya Mahadevan Pada Ambujan Dindiram दान दीक्षांत दयादिविश्वगुणे भान्तं बुधाग्रेसरं श्रीमद्रङ्गशटार योगिनपतिं शयोनिधिं संश्रये श्रीमच्चीरङ्गपृथ्वीश्वरगुणा सम्मेन्द्रेण दृष्टं नस्तात्मानं विसुम्हे नरहरिहृदयत् योगिने तु प्रसादात् राज्यं श्रीरङ्गहारि प्रभुविदेवप्तलक्ष्मी सिंहास्थानं सेवेन्द्रं सकलगुणनिधिं वीररघ्वेक्षटारिं श्रीरङ्गनाथगोविदिं दृष्टं लक्ष्मी सिंहजडकणेकपात्रं श्रीरङ्गवीररघुराजगोविद्यं वेदान्तदेशीयतीन्द्रमहं प्रपद्ये श्रीमद्रङ्गशटारसम्मविवराल्लब्धावान् तद्भयं श्रीमद्वीररघुत्वहात्यपादारविन्दाश्रयं श्रीमद्वेदपदं सदेशिकयतेः कारुण्यवीक्षास्पदं सेवे रङ्गधुरीणशासनवसं नारायणं योगिनं वेदान्तदेशीयतीन्द्रडाक्षलब्धत्रय्यन्तसारमणवद्विगुणं बुधाग्र्यं नारायणाद्यतितुर्विकृपाभिषिक्तं श्री रङ्गनाथयतिशेखरमाश्रयामः विदेश लक्ष्मेण स्मृतिपादुका सेवक शिवन झड़गोप श्रीरंग झड़गोविंद्र महादेशिकाय नमः श्रीमदे श्रीवन झड़गोप श्री वीरराग झड़गोविंद्र महादेशिकाय नमः श्रीमदे श्रीवन झड़गोप श्री वेदांत देशिकेन्द्र महादेशिकाय नमः विदेश लक्ष्मेण स्मृतिपादुका सेवक शिवन झड़गोप श्री नारायण यतीन्द्र महादेशिकाय नमः